you know what? You're right. I'm just horrible and you should never talk to me again. Why are you with me? If you have experienced an abusive relationship, chances are you've experienced that. In fact, if you've experienced any form of abuse, whether it was romantic, platonic, you may not even recognize that it was abuse, but you've definitely heard that phrase. This, my friends, is chronic victimhood, and it falls under the umbrella of gaslighting. Why do I want to bring this up? Because so many of us are walking around thinking that we need to walk on eggshells to make sure that we don't make other people feel bad for making us feel bad. As survivors of abuse, we have internalized this and made this our way of living, our way of existing, because we want to make sure that we don't make anyone else uncomfortable, because their discomfort means we're uncomfortable and we just can't have that. You know what, boo? I can tell you right now, you deserve so much better, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. Chronic victimhood. I don't know what the clinical term for this is, but this is something that's really, really important and something that I wanted to make sure that I address. Before we get started, in case you haven't already, I'm going to link right here to the playlist that I created all about gaslighting. After this video, make sure you go and check out that playlist. But just as a brief overview, what is gaslighting? Gaslighting is when someone manipulates you into thinking that your thoughts, feelings, reactions are wrong. And this is done because they want you to put them above you and their feelings above yours. It is one of the first things the abuser will do, because before they can mess with you any other way, they gotta get in your head. And if they can gaslight you into thinking that your thoughts, feelings, emotions, reactions are wrong, then it's much easier to do whatever else they want to do. Specifically, chronic victimhood. This is something that is a major trigger for me now. I really hate the word trigger because it's been blown up into something that it's not, but for lack of a better word, it really does trigger me. It is something that I personally grew up with a lot. It is something that I've seen quite a bit, and in every single abusive relationship that I was in from the time I was 12 to 23, and even when things happened when I was 6 and 7 years old, this was the response that I was given. By speaking up and by saying, hey, you hurt me, hey, this bothered me, hey, you disrespected me, it was an automatic flip the switch of, oh my gosh, you're right, I'm just horrible, you shouldn't be with me, I should just go kill myself, I just shouldn't be here. And then we end up saying, oh my gosh, I didn't say that, you're right, I'm the problem, I shouldn't have said anything, I should have just left it alone, you're not horrible, please don't talk like that. And what does this do? Pulls all the attention off of us and what we were trying to communicate and puts it on them, so that way we feel bad for them, which again teaches us that asking for respect is disrespectful. And I am here to tell you that that is just not true. Now that we have a basic overview of what chronic victimhood is and why it pisses Karleigh off, what do we do with that information? What do we do moving forward? How do we respond to it? The response really does vary depending on your situation. And the reason I bring this up is because it is not always safe for you to speak out, to speak back, or to even basically communicate, because it may end up getting you physically hurt. This is really, really important because abusive relationships vary all the way from completely non-physical to being very physical. I personally know people who are no longer here because of physical abuse. This is why I want to bring this up. If it is not safe for you to do so, don't respond. If you are aware of this, if you hear this and something clicks, that's a sign that the situation you're in needs to change and it's time for you to get out and move forward. If you can respond, if you feel safe responding and you don't think that they are going to physically lash out, honestly, the best response is no response. This is something where they can't use anything against you. You're not agreeing, you're not disagreeing, and you can truly just walk away. This is something that I learned to do from a very young age, and frankly, something I should have done more often. I was someone who was sick and tired of having my life controlled instead of having any control over it. So my mouth got the better of me more often than not, and I talked myself into some situations that never ended well. But if you can manage no response is the best response. How else you respond to it, again, really does vary. And while it may seem like no response is a safe thing to do, even in a physically abusive dynamic, a no response can cause them to lash out and have a temper tantrum. Just like how a 3-year-old will throw himself on the floor in the grocery store over some cookies, a grown adult will do the same thing. The downside here is that the grown adult ain't gonna kick and scream on the floor, they're gonna take it out on you. So while no real response is going to be the best response to this situation, whether you have no response, whether you agree with them, or whether you decide to lash back and go, you know what, you're right, I shouldn't be with you. No response, like there is no single response that's going to work in this situation. So, and while that may seem depressing, like, well, Karleigh, why are you telling me that if I can't do anything about it? Awareness is the first step to healing. Awareness is the first step to freedom. So if you're hearing this and going, wait a second, I relate to that. Wait a second, that happened to me. That can be the thing that helps you to recognize and burst that bubble so you begin to see the abuse that's going on around you that your brain has blocked out for the time being. This is also for those of us who are no longer in the abusive relationship, but are far from free. What I mean is that if you are not aware that this has happened, you may not even recognize that you are still being run by your abuser. You're living your life according to the way they wanted you to live your life months, years, decades after they're no longer in it. Awareness is the first step to freedom and healing. So if you are no longer in this situation, but you relate to it, one, I want you to know that you are so not alone. I did not recognize until just a couple of years ago that chronic victimization was a big reason why I struggle now to communicate how I feel and communicate my emotions. I've come a really, really long way. Do not get me wrong. And I am incredibly proud of myself, but that doesn't mean that it's a one and done and I never have to address this again. Recognizing that this has harmed me, has changed how my brain perceives things, and has planted a seed of fear in communicating how I think and feel. That's really important to recognize, because if I didn't know that was a thing, I wouldn't be here talking to you about anything. And I truly don't believe I'd even have this YouTube channel, because I would be so afraid of what everybody else would think about what I say. And I don't want to piss anybody off, and I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to hurt the people that hurt me for years on end. That's a video for another day. Whether you are in the relationship or you are no longer in the relationship, I want you to know that I am incredibly proud of you, and I truly hope that you are proud of yourself. This is not easy. Just the fact that you clicked on this and you're listening to this right now, that is already a major sign that you know that you've got healing to do and you want to move forward. And that is a step 99% of the world ain't gonna take. That is a step a majority of survivors aren't going to take. So I want you to recognize just how amazing you are and how proud of you I am, because you're taking that next step. And this playlist is going to walk you through what a trauma bond is, the signs of a trauma bond, and how to begin to break it. If you don't know what a trauma bond is, this is the playlist for you. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today.